be seated. Shabbat Shalom. So I was really excited because a couple weeks ago, one of my best friends from growing up was visiting from Israel with her partner. And they've never visited me in Boston before. So that was really exciting, and I wanted to give them the New England experience. So we decided to go to Salem, a historical New England town. And pretty much, I think maybe all of you have been in New England longer than I have. So maybe you've been to Salem and you've seen all the witch history and all of the little shops. And we were big magic nerds when we were kids, so it was really fun seeing all the witchy shops and the crystals and the potions and the candles with spell instructions. And before you accuse me of avodah zarah, of magic and idol worship, I should mention that even though I really get a kick out of this stuff, I'm still a skeptic at heart. Especially when Zach noticed the proprietor of one of the stores wearing this necklace with all these Hebrew letters on it, and asked him about it, and he said it was a Kabbalistic charm, and we thought it was gobbledygook, and we didn't tell him that, though. I did walk away with one keepsake, a blue ring with the evil eye emblazoned on it. I can't help it. I love magic and symbolism when it actually has roots in Jewish tradition, even if it is superstitious. There were actually a lot of charms and accessories with the evil eye on it, the kind of things that you're likely to find at the shuk in Israel or on my grandmother's wall, and not necessarily at these New England witchy shops. But the evil eye motif is having a major moment in modern fashion, in mainstream fashion right now. I've even seen headscarves and hair clips with it at TJ Maxx. Is anyone else in the room wearing evil eye or Hamsa jewelry today? A few people, yeah. So this image of the blue, white, and black eye, the shape of the Hamsa also, which is meant to ward off the evil eye, they've been around since ancient times, featured in Judaism, Islam, and other cultures throughout the Middle East. There's definitely a strong thread in Jewish tradition that treats the evil eye as a real magical supernatural force that can be protected from. But many of our sages had surprisingly naturalistic interpretations of the evil eye, which I think have powerful lessons even for the most skeptical among us. Right? This concept of the evil eye in Judaism actually goes all the way back to the Torah, where it's mentioned several times, including in this week's Parsha. So in this week's Parashat Tavo, God lays out blessings and curses. Blessings for if we follow God's ways and behave ethically in the Promised Land, and curses and punishment for if we abandon God and our moral responsibility. One section of curses, the Tochecha, right, is so dark and disturbing that actually Aaron read it in a more quiet tone so that we wouldn't have to dwell too much on it, even though it was still really long. And one feature of the Tochecha is that people will experience such devastating starvation that they'll turn an evil eye towards each other, refusing to share scant sustenance even with members of their own family. So here the evil eye has a literary meaning, right? It's a response to scarcity, a jealous suspicion of others. And in other sources, especially in the Talmud, the evil eye is a destructive, magical force wielded intentionally by those with spiritual power. We actually have stories of rabbis setting fire to things with their eyes, or even causing people to die just with the power of their gaze. Now, I promise you, they don't teach that in rabbinical school anymore, so don't fear your local rabbis. In other sources, the evil eye comes up around drawing attention to something good. You might hear people speaking of something good in their life and follow it up with a tfu tfu tfu, or the Yiddish phrase kaina hora, which means no evil eye, right? In modern Hebrew, bli ayin hara. There's an idea that drawing attention to something good makes it vulnerable to the evil eye. This idea also has precedent in Parashat Tavo, and my teacher, Dina Weiss of Hadar, has a great Dvar Torah on this, which pointed me to many of the sources I'm going to share. While the Parsha has a lot of curses, it also has many blessings, including the following. Yitzav Hashem itcha et habracha be'asamecha u'v'chol ma'aseh yadecha. God will cause blessing for you in your storehouses and in all of your undertakings. And because this word for storehouses, asamecha, it doesn't appear anywhere else in the Torah, it attracts attention of the Talmudic sage Rabbi Yitzchak, who makes a pun on the word. Rabbi Yitzchak said, blessing is only found in something hidden, samui, from the eye. As it says, God will cause blessing for you in your storehouses, asamecha. So asam, samui. The Maharsha then explains that this is referring to the evil eye. Blessing comes in places concealed from the ayin hara. The Talmud then continues with another teaching from the sages. Our rabbis taught, when entering into the storehouse, in order to measure the grain, a person should say, may it be your will, Hashem our God, that you send blessing to our undertaking. When one begins to measure, they say, blessed is the one who sends blessing to this pile of grain. If he measured first and then blessed, okay, so they're saying, say your blessing and then measure, right? But if you measure first and then blessed, this is a prayer in vain. Why? Because blessing is not found in what is weighed, measured, or counted, rather only in what is hidden from the eye. What does it mean that blessing only occurs when it's hidden? So Dina Weiss teaches that this isn't a magical prescription. It's not saying if you want a magical increase in grain, make sure you bless it before you measure. Rather, it's a description of what it means to enjoy blessing. She writes, a blessed state is one where we accept what we have and enjoy it, without always counting it, without always evaluating how good it is or how much better it could be. The wealth or increase is not the bracha. The true bracha, blessing, is the feeling of satisfaction, the freedom from the need to evaluate or praise, criticize, and complain. Let's say that last part again. The true bracha is the feeling of satisfaction, the freedom from the need to evaluate or praise, criticize, and complain. And it isn't just about how we relate to our own property, what's in our own storehouse. Elsewhere in the Talmud, Rav teaches that one should not stand by another person's field when the grain is ripe and ready for harvest, which Rashi explains is because they might harm the produce with their evil eye. Okay, so how can it be that we can even cause damage to other people and their property just with our gaze? Assuming this isn't the whole rabbis with laser vision thing again. Rabbi Soloveitchik understood the ayin hara in a kind of naturalistic, emotional way. He said, there are people whose lives are entirely dependent on the thoughts of others, whether they approve of them, forget about them, or praise them. At the moment they realize that others no longer approve of them or care about them, this immediately destroys their spiritual strength and self-confidence. People like this see themselves exclusively from the perspective of others without recognizing their independent abilities. For people like this, the ayin hara can be devastating. When others gaze upon them with an ayin hara, meaning some degree of opposition or disapproval, their very humanity can be completely destroyed. So for Rabbi Soloveitchik, how we look at each other really matters. When we cast judgment and disapproval on others, it can cause real emotional damage, especially for those who place a high value on how others view them. This teaching reminds us to be careful in how we treat others, even with our nonverbal communication. It also affirms the importance of having a thick skin and a core sense of self-worth, like the grain in a storehouse whose blessing is not subject to measurement or evaluation. It has inherent worth and a sense of abundance, and that's where its blessing lies. And this is a state which we can cultivate in ourselves and nurture in others by refraining from casting critical judgment. Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler, who's a prominent figure in the Musar movement, taught that attracting the evil eye was about inspiring jealousy in others, which can happen when we're insensitive about how we share our good fortune in our lives. So people don't want to draw attention to something good because it might make others jealous. He says the mechanism of the Ayin Hara is rooted in the spiritual reality of all people being connected to one another. Ayin Hara means that one is jealous of another and is bothered by their very being, and so they want only bad for the other person. Since all people's lives are mutually dependent on each other, it's possible that that could cause the successful person to be more susceptible to injury or damage. So to prevent that ill will, if you have good things in your life, but you don't want other people to be jealous of you, everyone should be in that position, I hope, or I wish that blessing upon you to be in that position. So he says to prevent that ill will, he points to a rabbinic teaching that one who becomes wealthy should use some of their money to do a mitzvah to prevent the Ayin Hara, right? And again, he's not reading this as magic. You should invoke divine protection and get some good points on your side, right? This is good sense in social relationships. Of course, it's on us to try not to be jealous of others. It's right there in the 10 Commandments, don't covet. But when we're blessed with good fortune and we think others might become envious or resentful, we also, he teaches, need to make sure we're not doing something that could provoke that response, right? Instead, we can be generous with our blessings, that your good fortune is my good fortune, and my good fortune is your good fortune. When we don't see our blessings as finite, but rather something to be shared, then that blessing increases further by connecting us with others and nourishing rather than damaging our social relationships. So the next time that you encounter evil eye or Hamsa jewelry or decorations, it could be that it's providing you with supernatural protection. I'm not going to knock it. But let's also let it be a reminder that our glances and our words have power to protect or to harm, to isolate or to connect, to inspire jealousy or to cultivate generosity. Let's let it remind us to guard not just against the evil eye of others, but also against that impulse within ourselves to see blessing as a zero-sum game. Instead, may we find abundance, share freely, and bless each other with eyes of kindness. Shabbat shalom.